I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and in this episode, we're going to be speaking about the subtle bodies. So, as we discussed about subtle anatomy, we talked about the chakras, we talked about the aura, and in this episode, the subtle bodies. So, there are 4 subtle bodies in addition to our physical body. So, if we start at the physical body and move outward, the next one, the etheric body, is vibrating at a higher rate of vibration. Moving out further, we have the emotional body, out further, the mental body, and then finally the causal body. And each of them process or decode different kinds of information and interact with the world in different ways. And so we're going to talk about each of these and kind of put it together. So I'm going to start with the furthest away from our body and then move our way into the physical body. And so the first one is the causal body. The causal body is responsible for our interaction with the universe. It is what separates us as individuals from the cosmic consciousness, from the unified force. It is kind of like the cosmic egg that holds us together. It starts to create our identity, although that's really pinpointed and focused as we move further down. But it is what kind of puts the shell around who we are. But it's through the causal body that we interact with our higher self, that we interact with God, that we interact with the Akashic records, whatever word you want to use, but it's through that body that we connect to source information. The goal of the etheric body is to keep us in line, to give us information, to keep us moving forward. And so when we get those soft bits of information within ourselves, it might be spirit or the universe communicating to us through that causal body. Now, there's the information and then there's what we do with it. So as we move down in vibration to the next slower vibration, we come to the mental body. The mental body is all about the workings, and I'm going to say of the mind, just to use that as a figure of speech. It is where our thoughts and our beliefs and our egos and our judgments and our view about the world are really established. And so it kind of creates the constructs of our reality. And so we might have information that is coming into us via the causal body, but it hits that mental body and it has to deal with us and our egos and what we hold true and what we don't hold true. And so that is what the mental body does. It creates a framework for our reality. It helps to create our perceived visual sense. Moving in, we have the emotional body. And the emotional body obviously is about feelings and emotions. And emotions are energy in motion. Think about that. Energy in motion. And so and when we have emotions, there is an activity tied to it. So let me give you an example. We can have a thought, but if there's no emotion tied to it, then it doesn't move further on. So, you're driving your car and somebody cuts in front of you. And there might be some days where we're in a good mood and we just let that person in. No big deal. Nothing happens. Because it doesn't bounce off our judgments. It doesn't bounce off of our ego. And so it doesn't create an emotional response. However, there might be other days where somebody cuts in front of you, same intersection. It could be the exact same situation that happens, but it triggers an emotional response. And that emotional response sets that energy in motion. And that will trickle down into the etheric body and then into the physical body to create a physiological reaction in us, or some kind of a reaction in us, which we're going to come back to in a different way, but we're going to come back to that. And so when you just have a thought, we all have thoughts, but if there's not an emotion tied to it, then there's really not going to be any activity. And so we have a lot of people that will create like vision boards or use affirmations, But those are just mental things. They're designed to get our mind wrapped around a concept or get our mind to own a notion. I'm worthy. I have abundance, whatever the affirmation happens to be. However, if you don't feel it in your heart, if you don't experience it with the emotional energy tied to it, nothing's going to happen. And so people talk about the law of attraction, that it doesn't work. And it's because they keep everything trapped within their mental body. It's only a mental construct and there's no feeling. You have to do it with feeling or else it just doesn't work. It won't manifest because it will not get the energy. It won't get the thought trickle down to manifest in our physical body, thus in our physical universe. Because where the physical body is within the physical universe. Okay. The etheric body is kind of like the blueprint of the physical body as well as the physical world. And so this is where things take form. And so what's interesting is working as a medical intuitive, like I do, when I interact with people, sometimes I will see something in their etheric body that has not broken through into the physical body. Or I will see something in the physical body, but it shows me that it has just broken through the etheric body. And we'll probably do some episodes on health and healing and the nature of disease, but just trust me on this. And I'll just tell a very quick story. I was teaching a class on energy healing and having my students partner up, and they were feeling the aura of their partner. And I said to them, well, if you feel anything with your hands or with your body, or you notice anything, raise your hand and let me know. And so one of my students was like, well, come here. And she goes, I'm feeling something right here. And she was, one, working with her husband, but she was noticing something right in front of his face. And I said, well, how does it feel? And she said, well, it feels really hot. And so I said, well, have you asked him if there's anything going on? And she said, yeah. And her husband said, I feel fine. I don't have anything going on. And when I looked at him, what I could see was that there was a sinus infection. I mean, his whole head and face seemed hot and red and irritated. And, but his response was, I feel fine. However, the next day, he apparently did break through into the physical form, and he did have a really bad sinus headache or sinus infection, where he ended up going to the doctor and getting treated for this sinus infection. Both of them became good fans of mine, which was very cool. But it tells you that this is where things form. And so if we're talking about disease, we really don't want them to move past the etheric body. We want them to stay back there or further up the tree, so that we're not getting the cosmic 2x4 and experiencing physical disease. And then we have the physical body, and the physical body is what processes this information that's coming in via the chakras through the subtle bodies, because each of the subtle bodies has chakras tied to it. And we're going to talk about the dynamics of energy movement through the subtle bodies via the chakras in a different video. But I just wanted to kind of give you the idea of what these subtle bodies are. But before we leave, I want to have you do a little experiment, because we're going to talk about how this energy works. And it's very cool. So I want you to imagine, close your eyes if you want, close your eyes. But I want you to imagine that I have a nice juicy lemon in my hand, and I'm rolling it around and getting those juices flowing. Oh, and it's nice and chilled in my hands. And I can just feel as it's starting to soften up with that juice inside the lemon. And now I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to cut it into quarters. And now I'm picking up one of those quarters and I'm putting it in my mouth and taking a bite. So what did you experience? I'm sure many of you felt a tartness in your mouth, or your mouth start to pucker up with the thought of eating a lemon. But what happened? What just happened? The thought of eating a lemon created an emotional response within you that trickled down through your etheric body and manifested within your physical body as this puckering of the mouth and this tasting of bitterness, perhaps, within the mouth. But it was just a thought that created a physiological response within you. Think about going to work every day. Think about dealing with your family or your children or all the multitude of things that create emotional responses in us. And what impact is that having on our physical body? Well, my friends, that's the topic of yet another interview or another episode. So I hope you enjoyed this and continue watching this ongoing series. Please do subscribe to this network. Share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And like Dr. Rita Louise on Facebook. So until next time, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. Be blessed.